Good afternoon. Can y'all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, is my audio working?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Before we start, I need to make sure y'all can hear me. Okay, so welcome. We are about to start our third session of the On-Course Faculty Book Club. But today I have a special guest for you all. And I'm going to turn the first part of this meeting over to Dr. Lona Alexander Mitchell. The first 5 to 10 minutes of our meeting will be with this special guest.
Hey,
Lona?
y'all. I guess I'm looking crazy. Can you hear me? I'm looking for Marcy. I'm looking for my presenter. But let's see. Is she here?
I'm here.
Marcy?
Hi, Dr. Alexander Mitchell. Hi.
I hear a voice. Is that you, Marcy?
It's me. Yep.
You kind of
Okay.
low, Marcy.
Kind of little.
Well, on my end.
I'm so
Okay.
sorry. It might be my Teams connection. I'm so sorry. Let me try and turn up my volume.
Oh, there you are. Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Lona Alexander Mitchell. I'm the project director for one of the Title V grants. I have Ms. Trinita Lewis on the call with me as well. She's the other project director for one of our grants. So today we asked Dr. Armature, would it be all right if we would have a special guest to come in and talk to you about one of the initiatives that the grant has, and it's 24/7 tutoring. It's called tutor.com, and some of you may have heard of it, but some of you may not have. So we wanted to bring in the expert on tutor.com. So if you had any questions that we couldn't answer, that she would be available. So with that said, I'm going to introduce Ms. Marcy Malone, the representative from tutor.com, and let her do her thing. All right.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alexander Mitchell, and thank you all very much for inviting me today. So I'm going to share my screen in just a moment. If you can't hear me, I'm so sorry. We've been having some Teams issues lately, all of us at tutor.com. So just let me know. I can use my outside voice instead of my inside voice. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I'll make sure I'll talk a little bit louder. Sorry about that. But let me share my screen. So I'm going to just give you a very brief overview of the wonderful program that you have initiated at Lamar State College, Port Arthur through tutor.com. If anyone has any questions when I'm done, feel free to reach out to me at any time. You can also reach out to Dr. Alexander Mitchell. She is our point person, the program manager for your tutor.com program. But I wanted to share a brief overview for you about who we are. Some of you may be familiar with us, and we might be new to some of you too. So we have been providing tutoring, one-to-one tutoring. We are actually over 27 million sessions now. We are K through 12 plus college, plus we work with some corporate partners, but we're also the exclusive member of online tutoring to the Department of Defense. So we're in school districts, but we work a lot with colleges and universities as well. So I wanted to show you have a really great tutoring program with tutor.com. You have the academic tutoring in 152 different subject areas. And I will send out a report to Dr. Alexander Mitchell that she's welcome to share that will show you all the different subject areas that we provide one-to-one tutoring in. You also have wonderful test prep resources. So those are developed by the Princeton Review, who is our sister company. Those are also part of your program, and those are just free resources for your students to use. And I'll show you what those look like in just a moment. And then you also have career services and student success tutoring as well. So there's things like resume drop-off, cover letter drop-off, or one-to-one tutoring in those areas. Plus we have life skills and academic skills tutoring for student success. I wanted to show you quickly, because I know as faculty members, you want to know who's working with your students. These are the qualifications and process that a tutor has to go through before they can actually work for tutor.com. So we have over 200,000 applications to become a tutor every year, and they have to go through this extensive vetting process. They need to know how to tutor in addition to having the experience and qualifications that they need to become a subject matter expert in tutoring. And once they do, out of the 200,000 that we get per year, 1.3% actually become tutors with tutor.com. We also, I like to mention to faculty, we are not an answer giving service. Our tutors work with your students in a very rigorous way. So when a student comes in for tutoring, we use things like the Socratic method and scaffolding. So we're not going to just give the answers to your students. It's truly an academic experience and a learning experience for the students that receive tutoring through tutor.com. The student experience, I wanted to show you how your students connect. And I know I'm going really fast, so I'm sorry. Students connect through a single sign-on process. So this is the easiest process for students to connect to a tutor. They simply click the tutor.com link in their course. They're automatically taken into tutor.com, which is where I'm going to go next. And I'll show you what it looks like from the student perspective. But they just click the link and they're automatically taken in. And let me show you. This I wanted to show you too, as a faculty member, if you have the tutor.com link in your course, you're going to be able to click the tutor.com link. You'll have your own client portal. You can view tutoring information for the students that are in your courses. You can review their transcript. You can also run reporting as well, but we're not going to have time to look at that today, but I wanted to show you that. But if you also wanted to look to see what it looks like from the student perspective, you can do that under My Account, switch to Student View. And when you do that, it's going to take you into, I'm sorry, my internet's running a little slow. There we go. It's going to take you into, it's going to identify you as you, but it's going to take you in and show you what it looks like for a student. So this is what it looks like in tutor.com. So your students have all of these different options available to them. Connect with a Tutor Now is 24/7 drop-in tutoring at any time of day. So if your student wanted to get help at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 3 o'clock in the morning, they will be able to do that through the Connect with a Tutor Now option. When they can also schedule a session. Most students don't use this option. Most students drop in for tutoring, but if your student works with one of our tutors and they enjoy that tutoring session and want to look at the tutor schedule or schedule future sessions with that same tutor, they can do that through the schedule a session. Drop off your work is another wonderful service. This is where students can drop off their paper. You've got drop off an essay, ELL, ESL, and drop off a cover letter or a resume for review. When a student drops off a paper, the tutor has up to 50 minutes to review that student's paper, and they're going to send it back to the student, the original draft of the essay, the marked up draft. So they're going to put inline comments, and then they're going to get a post summary feedback form from the tutor. That's going to, oh, I'm so sorry. This is my internet connection. Let me stop sharing for a moment. I can get back in here. Let me go back to my PowerPoint. Very sorry about that. So drop off your work is where a student can drop off their paper. They're going to get it back guaranteed within 12 hours or less, but most of the time the student is going to get their paper back within 6 to 7 hours. But we want to make sure that we allow students enough time to drop off their paper, have it reviewed, and then return to them so that they can make any necessary corrections to their paper. The tutors will never make corrections to a student's paper. The other areas I'll mention briefly are test prep and self-study. That is the area that's going to house all of those wonderful Princeton Review resources. And then My Account is where all previous sessions the student has had will be housed, and they are welcome to share their transcripts with anyone, a faculty member, an advisor, any staff member, and they'll have access to those records as well. And I know we are at time. I'm going to send Dr. Alexander Mitchell, let me back out of here. I'm going to send her some materials that she's welcome to share with you, including, this is information. We have a free student success webinar series. These are curated and facilitated by our learning services team. These are open to anyone at the institution. They are student focused though. And on December 10th, we have teamwork and collaboration. Anyone's welcome to register and they're always recorded. But thank you so much. I'll stop sharing and I'll see if there's any questions.
Well, Marcy, I don't see anyone raising their hand to ask any questions, but we greatly, oh,
Somebody
wait a minute,
has one.
Caitlin. Caitlin has a question.
Wonderful.
Hi, I'm Caitlin James. I teach English. I don't have a question. I actually just wanted to compliment the medium. I really, really appreciate tutor.com. It's listed as the very top module in my in all of my classes for my English students. I encourage it as much as I can. I find it to be an incredible tool, and yeah, I can't say enough about it. So thank you.
Oh my goodness, that is so great to hear. Thank you so much. Most of us that work for tutor.com are former educators and we love supporting students. So we are very, very, very happy to hear that you also enjoy the support that you're receiving from our tutors for your students as well. So thank you.
Definitely.
We do appreciate your time, Marcy, and I'm
Aw.
sure that Dr. Lona is going to share any information that you provide to her with us so that we can continue to use tutor.com.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you to Dr. Alexander Mitchell too. She's wonderful in helping support your students as a partner to us as well. So thank you all very much. And I'm sorry for the technical issues I had today, but thank you for your patience. And I hope you have a lovely, lovely afternoon. And thank you again.
Thank you, Marcy.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, we're gonna get out of here. Yeah.
You don't have to leave. Y'all can
Oh, okay.
stay
Okay,
if
I'll
you
stay.
wanted. Yeah, you don't. You're more than welcome to join us anytime. Okay, so to the business at hand. Today we're going to talk about a little bit about gaining self-awareness, lifelong learning, and emotional intelligence. This is our last session before we go on a holiday because, you know, we're all busy in the rest of November and December. And when we come back in January. So after today, our next session will not be until the middle of February, around the 19th of February. So successful students versus struggling students. How often do students get off course? Comments? Comments? Leah.
I guess I'll start it out. Since we're leaning close to the end of the semester, right about now is when I see a lot of students who have been getting off course finally coming back and trying to communicate with me. I do work really hard to make sure that that doesn't happen early on by trying to set them up for success. But we're blessed that now we get a second opportunity because they're finally coming home.
It takes them a little while. So how often do we see students self-sabotage by making poor choices? Students often don't have the brain power to, and we'll talk about later, emotional intelligence, the maturity to make good choices when it comes to their academic career and their coursework and balancing their work life with their school life, with their home life, and all of the other things that they are juggling just as people. So one of the things that we can do is try to help students recognize when they're getting off course. What are some ways that we can get them back on track? have you had conversations with students about what they could do to be more focused on their schoolwork? Dr. Barbay.
I had a comment. Well, actually, I had a class just before this session, and I asked the question at the end of class, would you tell me of any of you if you actually became aware of being bored during the class discussion? Please raise one finger for yes and two fingers for no. And one student did raise one finger, indicating that she had experienced boredom. And I told the students that we would be exploring in our next meeting. It's a Monday, Wednesday, Friday class, because it was right at the end of the class session, to think about boredom. Who owns our boredom? How do we choose, or do we choose boredom, or do we push off the cause of our boredom on other people? And I have found in my years of teaching that often students will deny their own responsibility for choosing boredom. I tell students sometimes, although they are very reluctant to hear this, that if you are bored, then that means that you are not thinking in terms of a learning mindset, an interested mindset, and that there are some things we can do, you can do, and I can do, so that we can have a more engaged discussion. So these are some of the things that I do.
Okay, thank you very much. We appreciate you sharing. Charlene McNeil.
I think often with some of our students, especially as we get closer to the end of semester and deadlines start to loom in front of them, and they get so overwhelmed that it paralyzes them. And so then they have difficulty making the decisions on how to prioritize what's in front of them. So I think the conversations of helping them refocus, talk about prioritization, and then steps to help them move forward often is what we use to help them get back on track so they can be successful, or set up a plan for if they can't be successful this semester, what they can do in the future to, get their life a little bit more together, or to do things differently the next time.
Excellent, excellent. So one of the things that the OnCourse textbook does, and as we start using this textbook more in our learning frameworks classes, more of our students will be exposed to this, but they have the students do journaling to try and help identify when they're going off track and what some of their bad habits are, and then asking them what they can do to change those habits. I think Mr. Lynch would like to say something. Brian Lynch, you're muted. All right. Brian says, hold on.
Okay, sorry. I'm a Zoom person, so I basically forgot, and I didn't realize I was clicking on that button. No, the point about boredom is, I think essentially it requires like a paradigm shift in our classroom. Like, how often have we been to, like, as faculty or admin, like maybe we go to a 4-hour workshop where we kind of tune out, even though a lot of it's good, some of it's not. And I think as teachers, it kind of requires us to sort of get away from the whole, like, their voice doesn't matter, where essentially they're listening to us teaching. And I think, that maybe we can modify our strategies, modify our classroom methods, to actually give students more choice and more autonomy. So we're no longer basically the sage on the stage. And I understand that it's difficult, but as I said, I think we just sort of have to totally change how we're used to teaching. Right, we say stuff and they listen to us, but I think we're kind of needing to move away from that, and also kind of another point about especially online learning, I think it's a good idea to like, put something at the beginning of each week and then also kind of just send a note to students and kind of checking in to see maybe why they have missed homework. And I think they're usually appreciative of that. So, those were 120 seconds we can't get back, but I just figured I would just, land something to the meeting.
Very nice insights. So one of the other things that we have to consider when we're working with a diverse student population is that every student has a different experience. Their life experiences determine what they do in the classroom. So in the on-course textbook, there was a really nice story about the 30-year-old woman named Diana. Whenever the instructor was talking about her left brain, well, as a child growing up, her father had said she only had half a brain, and it triggered a memory in her that he was saying she was stupid. But that is not what the instructor meant. He was talking about left brain versus right brain and that she's intelligent. And so we need to consider sometimes whenever students get upset in the classroom or they lash out in the classroom, that it has to do with how they came up in the world, and that what you say, they may have taken a different way. So we want to make sure that anytime our students get upset in the classroom, that we reach out to them and make sure that we're trying to address the issues that they're having in our class. So, what are the 3 rules for success? Okay, we get to write our own rules, right? There's a chapter in here that says or a section that says write your own rules. But they also gave 3 rules for success. And as I read through these, I thought, this is great for early college, high school students and dual credit students. The first one is show up. If you don't come to class, if you don't show up to do the work, how can you be successful? The second one is do your best work. Don't do something halfway. You need to put some effort into every assignment that you do. And the third one is to participate actively. And this is the one that I think we need to work on in our classrooms, is getting all students to participate. We've all taught a class where 1 or 2 students lead the whole discussion. You ask a question to the class and it's the same 2 or 3 students that answer every time. We need to find ways to get all of our students included in classroom activities. And that's where bringing in some of the active learning things like small groups and jigsawing and other activities in the classroom can help to bring out those students that aren't willing to share as openly as others. So any comments on the rules for success? Okay, so we're going to move on to lifelong learning. That's my bookmark. So in the lifelong learning chapter in the on-course textbook, the majority of this chapter talks about the growth mindset. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that because 2 years ago, our whole book club was on the growth mindset. So I think many of our faculty have a good foundation into fixed mindset versus growth mindset and being able to look at our brain as a muscle that has to be worked, that we have to set goals if we're going to have a growth mindset, that we appreciate feedback when we're in a growth mindset, and that the feedback we're getting needs to be positive feedback. Even whenever it's a negative message, there's a way to spin it so that it comes out in a positive fashion. So we want to remember to do those things. And always be able to change course when needed. Not every student learns the same, right? We all have a different learning style. And it's difficult for instructors who are teaching a class of 40 to teach to every single learning style. The more activities that you can put into your classroom, the more flexibility you can put into assignments and give them choices on how they present those assignments. Maybe they do better making a video than writing a paper. So think about adding some different strategies into your classroom. So okay, so did anybody read the fish story with the biology professor? Yeah, maybe, no, yes. Very interesting study of students who came into a classroom and just expected the teacher to come in and teach. But were the students ready to learn yet? And they weren't. And it took, what, 3 days till the fish started really smelling before the students finally got the message and did what he intended for them to do and observe their fish, all of the observations, and take the notes on their fish. And then he could move forward. And, his final statement was, all right, now we're ready to begin, because the students had learned how to do proper observation when they were given something to observe. What that shows you is, and again, there were students in the class that were ready to drop the class. They were very frustrated with the professor because they were paying tuition and he wasn't teaching them anything. But by the 4th day, they understood what was happening and they got the message that they have to be responsible for their own education. We provide the information to them. We not always stand in front of the classroom. You may be in the back of the classroom. You may be doing a group assignment or a lab project, but we're giving them the information and teaching them the facts they need to know. How they absorb those facts and retain those facts and information is up to them. Any questions or comments? Okay, so Dr. Barbe.
Yes, I have a comment on helping students to transition from, they may have heard about the growth mindset, that there is a possibility for learning and to be open to learning, but many students are not familiar with the scout mindset as opposed to the soldier mindset. And I tell them, when they ask questions about it, I explain in a few minutes. The scout mindset is when a person is exploring, looking for ideas without judgment, not making up their minds about whether an idea, it's kind of like brainstorming, open to ideas regardless of what our opinions are about the ideas that we're discussing. And I tell them also to be aware if they are shifting too much to the soldier mindset, which is a way of thinking of defending what you already know. And actually, it's kind of analogous to the closed or fixed mindset. The growth mindset, closed mindset actually fits in my discussions very well with the scout versus soldier. And I help students to, and maybe even group them into a activity of our old friend Think, Pair, Share, where I have them think about these ideas, then pair up with someone, come to some conclusions, comparing and contrasting these ways of thinking, and then coming back to the larger group and sharing. And this has worked fairly well.
Oh yeah, I love Think, Pair, Share. It's fabulous. Does anyone have any other strategies they've used in the classroom that they would like to share? Leah?
One of my main modes of content delivery is polling. So I like to go over a little bit of information, and then I will poll the audience, and then we'll talk about it and reflect on it. If everybody or most people got it right, we celebrate each other. If maybe half of us got it wrong, we go back over the information. So it gives us an opportunity to reteach. And there are lots of different methods of using polling, from low tech to high tech. So polling has been a really helpful tool for me so far.
Polling is an exceptional strategy to use because it gives you a lot of flexibility from the high tech to the low tech. And students today are so tech savvy. The more that we can include high tech into our classroom keeps them interested in what we're doing in the classroom. And if they know they're going to have a poll, and they're going to be able to use their phone in some technology or play some sort of a game, they're more interested and they pay attention to what you're saying and they learn the material better.
Yes, I like to hack their phone by making them scan that QR code, making them log in, and making them answer those questions. Because if I'm using your phone, you can't use your phone.
Yeah. That's a good point. They can't be distracted. So how many of you have found in your classes at times, as Dr. Barbe was talking about, students get bored? You notice the student that's nodding off to sleep, or the student that is reading something other than their textbook or doodling on their paper. How do you get them back in? What strategies have you used to refocus? Yeah, this goes back to our book, Hitting Pause. If you notice your class slipping away, they're not focused on what you're talking about. They seem to be a little bit distracted. Stopping, asking a couple of questions can get them back into the fold. Having an activity that you can do spontaneously is something else that can help bring them back into the fold and get them focused on what we want them to learn that particular day. Dr. Barbe?
You mentioned seeing students doodling and making little drawings when they're taking notes. One of my favorite ways of learning that I've been studying and obsessing on for the past couple of years is called sketch noting. And some of you, in fact, Dr. Armenter, you may even recall in
Yes.
one of our book clubs, I did a little presentation on sketch noting. And so my purpose in commenting to the students on you incorporating pictures into their notes is actually supporting and reinforcing these two very important ways of learning that they can work together. And some students who are doodling, I noticed, but not writing words, often can be attracted to combining using the artistic images that they're coming up with, because we all know that the more senses we use in our note taking, in our learning, the more we're going to retain that information. And students are really amazed to hear, oh, Dr. Barbe says it's okay to draw. Yeah.
Yes. Okay, so as we move through this chapter on adopting lifelong learning, one of the big points that they bring up is teaching students to live with integrity. And this all goes back to academic honesty. Are they being true to themselves? And I think for college instructors, and again, personal opinion here, we have a little bit harder time with that because of what goes on in the high schools, because they are allowed to copy passages from Wikipedia and put them in a paper without citing them. And then they get to college and they want to go to Wikipedia and copy a passage, and they're not allowed to do that because that's plagiarism. that they can take things off the internet word for word and put them in a PowerPoint in college in high school without citing that. But you can't do that in college. And so trying to bridge that gap and teach our students that anything that you did not create yourself, that came from your own thoughts and minds, has to be cited, has been a struggle for many of us, right? So what have you done in your classroom to reinforce academic integrity and honesty? Miss Davis.
Good afternoon, everybody. I think one of the things that I try to do, as I'm sure you all do, is lead by example. So one of the things that I try to do is if I'm giving a presentation or if I have a presentation that's presented, is cite my resources on the end of that presentation and then refer them to that to let them know that this wasn't all me. If I gather from other resources, and that's whether it's the book or if it's other tools or resources that I use. I like to use some YouTube videos a lot of times for that visual. Sometimes it makes the content simpler to understand for the students. And so I also cite those resources as well. So I just try to lead by example.
Thank you. Miss James.
Oh, sorry. Hi. So basically, what I do is I tell them that there is a time and a place to use like ChatGPT, for example. So if we're working on research papers, we have a whole day where we look at ChatGPT and do like outlines. And I say, see, it's really good to use for certain things like outlines or jogging your memory with just like little bits and pieces of, questions and things like that. Then I show them how terrible it would be if they used it, for writing a whole essay. So I see how robotic it sounds, see how non-organic it sounds. So we have these discussions constantly about when is the proper time to use it and when is it really like plagiarism and when is it really bad, especially in an English class. That's the way I'm trying to combat this right now.
So yeah, and English is the perfect place to talk about that.
Yes.
With the advent of AI and with the ChatGPTs and all of these other products that are coming out, being able to integrate those into our classrooms in ways that are useful. And that's one of the things that as a college, I believe we're going to be setting up. In fact, Dr. Millsap and I talked about it last week, some lunch and learns on AI and how to use it in your classroom. Mm-hmm. And AI and how to use it to help combat academic dishonesty. So I think we've picked out 5 different sessions that we're going to do next semester for lunch and learns.
It's like that phrase, if you can't beat them, join them. And so
exactly.
there's a way to utilize it to where it can be positive, but then there's also an aspect where they still have to have their own writer's voice and integrity and all those things.
Yeah, and providing them examples of a fully generated ChatGPT essay. Mm-hmm. If they read it, it's so easy to tell. Once you've read one of those, mm-hmm. you know that it wasn't written by a human being.
Yep, absolutely.
It's really strange. I had my first experience with that recently because, I'd heard people talk about it and I thought, let me see what happens. And so I wrote one and I'm like, I would never. Yeah, never. Okay. So yeah, we have to instill self-respect and help our students build their self-respect and their self-esteem as we go forward. We're molding, with the majority of our students being dual credit students, we have more of an opportunity to mold and shape these young minds as they move forward. Okay, we're still doing good on time. All right, so we're going to skip over to chapter 8, which is emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? Well, I went to find a definition, and as the book states, they're still developing the definitions of emotional intelligence. There are probably 6 or 7 different definitions out there that talk about emotional intelligence. But I'd say one of the things that seems to come out in most of these are the same things that are listed in the book. A couple of these definitions include key points. Yeah, so Dr. Williams says to empathize. Say in the chat. My chat went away. Yeah, being able to empathize and feel what others feel. So the textbook talks about 2 personal qualities and 2 social qualities. So it incorporates both a personal and social intelligence. So are you emotionally self-aware, knowing your feelings in the moment? What makes you angry? What makes you sad? What makes you happy? Again, it goes back to the life experiences. What happened in your childhood that could be triggered by something that's said today? Emotional self-management, where you are able to manage your strongest feelings like anger and frustration, which is 2 emotions that students feel quite often in the classroom when they don't understand, when they're not sure what they're supposed to be doing. Dr. Williams?
Okay. Yes, one thing I like to do with that particular emotional intelligence when I talk to the students, because these are high school / college students, sometimes high schoolers, they think everything is funny. And an example that when I'm explaining this to them, if you were sitting at the cafeteria table with your friends and you all were eating and someone across the table from you had something in their teeth, maybe some greens or something, what would be the emotionally intelligent thing for you to do, or how would you handle that? Now, everybody at the table wouldn't necessarily have to know that this is going on with the person. You could just quietly, let that person know that, you have something in your teeth that you need to take care of. But being not emotionally intelligent, a person might use that and tell everybody at the table, hey, look, and so and so. So, I try to, give them example and let them give me an example of how to handle things in an emotionally intelligent way.
Good comments, good comments. Again, that's empathizing accurately with other people's emotions. You want to think about before you call them out in front of the whole table, you want to know what's that going to make the person feel like? And that shows emotional intelligence. Leah?
I just wanted to touch off of something that you said earlier, that the student may be having a hard time identifying their own emotions. And so especially when they're experiencing those negative emotions like anxiety, being overwhelmed, maybe they're angry and frustrated about their grade, acknowledging it instead of hyperfixating on it or combating it, just say, I see that you're frustrated. Let's make a plan moving forward. So you give them an avenue to focus on, an avenue out of that emotional panic by acknowledging it and then redirecting onto like, what can we actually do to fix this? But just denying them right off the bat will kind of set you up for resistance. If you immediately tell them to calm down. I know in the history of calming down, nobody has ever calmed down by being told to calm down. But just giving them that acknowledgement, like, hey, I'm frustrated too, or hey, this is a frustrating situation. Let's make a plan together.
Right. And getting them to understand that all we want to do is help them. We want to help them succeed. We want to help them learn. And if they're getting stressed and frustrated and they're not sure where to go, that we're the person they need to come to and talk to. They need to ask for the help.
Yeah, we're on the same team.
Yes. And by building their emotional intelligence, and getting them able to manage relationships better and handle emotions in a positive way. Dr. Barbe?
Yes. In helping students to accept emotions, even unpleasant emotions, I used to teach a learning framework course. I used a different textbook, but I got some ideas from that textbook. They're called, and in fact, some of you may be familiar with the textbook, Becoming a Master Student. And in that textbook, there are some master student strategies. One of the strategies is to accept where you are. A lot of times we struggle with emotions because we're experiencing something we don't like and we want to be out of that. We want to deny it and run away from it. But we have to remember that the only power we have is in the present. And I've mentioned this before. The past we can't change, the future is uncertain. We have to start from where we are. And one story that I like to tell students is about this psychologist who was helping individuals in a mental health facility. And there was this one patient who believed had been diagnosed as having schizophrenia. He believed that he was Jesus Christ, and all of the attempts by people, other people who were trying to help him, tried to get him away from the idea that he was Jesus Christ, that you were a real person, you're a human person. Jesus Christ is a historical figure, blah, blah, blah. Then this other psychologist, this other mental health professional came in and walked up to this young man and said, "Say, I think you know something about carpentry." And so in accepting the young man's self-concept of I am Jesus Christ, who historically was a carpenter and a son of a carpenter, then that person, the helper, mental health professional, was able to help that young man to actually use the skills, carpentry skills, which he did have. He got him engaged in a shop kind of setting where he was working with his hands. And the happy ending of this story is that this young man eventually was able to leave the institution using the skill sets that were accepted by the people that were helping him.
Yes, exactly. So building their self-respect and self-esteem and helping them to identify their emotional intelligence and what they need to do to help control the emotions is a big part of what we need to do in our classrooms. So one of the things that having emotions, high stressing emotions, right? Anger, defeat, having those strong emotions can bring on additional stress. So how do we help students relieve the stress that they're experiencing in the classroom as well as outside the classroom? So what do you tell your students when they tell you that they're feeling stressed and don't know what to do? Well, if the stress is coming from an external source, a demanding job, a difficult spouse, you can refer them to our mental health resources. Timely care, which the college offers for both faculty, staff, and students, is very helpful. It's a 24-hour mental health services that can help students, faculty, and staff reduce the stress. Making lists, prioritizing what you need to do during the day. And this is really important for students that have home responsibilities, work responsibilities, and school responsibilities. that can be very overwhelming. One of the best examples is our nursing programs. There's such high demand. You have multiple clinical hours. You know, they're in clinic for 6 hours a day, but they still have to go home and take care of their kids and family responsibilities. And then they have all of the other class coursework that they have to do. So again, organization, making lists, doing some time management. These are the skills that we need to encourage our students to learn and to help foster with things that we're doing in the classroom. Mr. Lynch.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I'm going to bring up is what Dr. Millsap talked about at the last new faculty workshop, was about Skip Downing's wise choice process, and that I'm going to include in my syllabus, both online and even in front of my door. So the idea is that the student, like there's 6 things that the student will take responsibility for. So it's got, yeah, Skip Downing's wise choice process. I think he wrote a book. I can't remember the title, but part of it was giving the student the choices rather than us choosing for the students. And also really quickly, going back to the feeling of stress and the feeling of imposter syndrome, which I think a lot of faculty, a lot of us have, whatever role we have on campus. And this is something I keep forgetting to do, but what I'd love to do for the future is have everyone stand up and do a superhero pose. Like stand up, sort of, you know, make a stand that you're being a superhero. And in a way that can sort of bring down everyone's kind of feeling of stress, that they may feel goofy, but basically what you're reinforcing is every day when they come to class is they are a superhero. They're overcoming struggles that we don't know about. And we kind of given them that sort of implied reinforcement that they are, you know, pardon my French, they are kicking butt, and that they, you know, that we're supportive and that they're going to get through this.
Yes. Dr. Christina Wilbur.
I was going to say that, especially like when students are experiencing the stress of family, work, and school, that when you talk to them, if you can kind of talk to them individually, that you have to acknowledge that like the family responsibilities, those are kind of set in stone. They don't have a lot of wiggle room. And when they have their work responsibilities, those are kind of set in stone too. I mean, they have to pay their bills. They have to take care of their family. And sometimes just acknowledging that they have those responsibilities and that you understand that they then have to prioritize schoolwork within that small space that they have. And maybe 1 month, they don't necessarily need to prioritize your class. Maybe they need to be prioritizing another class that has important things due, or it's harder for them. You can say, you know, perhaps these 2 weeks, you might need to focus on your chemistry class, right? Things are going to be quiet in here for a while. Or you can say, you know, in the next 3 weeks, you really need to focus on this for our class. So I think just letting them know that they don't have to, they have to prioritize, right? But you can help them prioritize. So,
yes, we can help them prioritize. We can also encourage them that when their plate is full, they are allowed to say no. I learned that whenever I was in my doctoral program, that I was allowed to say no. When people ask me to do stuff, I'm like, no, I don't have time to do that. I've got other responsibilities that are more important at this time. Give me a couple of months and then we'll be able to focus on that a little bit more. So again, give them permission to say no. Let them know that when they're juggling all of these responsibilities, that they don't have to take on more, right? And then there's the time wasters. Get rid of time wasters. We are all busy people, right? There is no doubt in my mind that every person, all 35 people on this call today are extremely busy. We are a small college. We are all working more than we should for the benefit of our students. So we need to eliminate time wasters. So somebody on campus that comes in and they just want to visit. Do you have time to visit that day? Maybe you don't. Maybe you're too busy grading essays. You can politely say, hey, I need to get these essays graded today. Let's schedule a time that we can talk or go out for drinks or have coffee or meet in the dining Seawall Cafe and have lunch so that you can visit a little bit. So again, we want to eliminate those time wasters. Okay, so we have been on this call for 55 minutes, 56 minutes now. We've, again, giving 10 minutes to the tutor.com people was great, but it leaves us 10 minutes left to talk about what I want to talk about. Okay, let me see what else I have on here. Reducing stress. Okay, so you will have noticed that we've gone through 8 of the 9 chapters in the book. I did that purposefully because chapter 9 is kind of just a wrap up of everything. But what I want to do for the next time in February, March, and April is I want you guys to be using some strategies in the classroom and coming back to this meeting and talking about them. Okay? And if just 4 or 5 of you try a strategy and come and talk about it for 5 minutes, we filled our hour. So again, that's what I want to do for next semester, for the spring semester, is I want to hear from you guys a little bit more. I'll have some stuff to fill in the gaps, but I really want to see what's working for you guys in the classroom. And this is going to help Leah get some more ideas of what to put into the QEP Blackboard, which I believe is going to be up and running in the spring semester. I'm not hearing anything from Leah. So sometime during the spring semester.
I would like some contributions so to round out the space. But yes, we're making some progress on that. I'm pretty satisfied with the progress that we're making so far.
Yeah, I looked at it the other day and it looks pretty good to me. Okay, so I do not want this call to go over the 60 minutes. So we now have 2 minutes left. Is there anyone that would like to say anything?
I'll kind of ask a question. If we happen not to be teaching this class the spring semester, then are we're not a part of the book club?
No, you can still come to the book club. Okay. I don't care if you're teaching the class or not.
Okay.
Yeah, anybody can come to book club that wants to come to book club. As long as you're employed at Lamar State College, Port Arthur, you're welcome to the book club.
Okay.
Right. I do thank you. Again, all of these, this session has been recorded, as have the others, and they will be available for viewing within the Blackboard course. Thank you very much. And y'all enjoy your holidays from the book club. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.